At the City Council meeting on June 4th, Councilmember Barry Graham raised questions about a lawsuit that was discussed in executive session. The members met behind closed doors to discuss filing an appeal to the $5.2 million judgment against the city from a former city prosecutor, Shawn Fuller. Item 15 on the consent agenda required a vote to authorize the council to appeal the judgment in the Shawn Fuller case. When Mr. Graham raised informational questions about the cost of an appeal and whether appeals are normally successful, he was shut down by Ortega and the council majority.
I had a few questions about item 15 is the Shawn Fuller versus City of Scottsdale appeal.
We came out of executive session on this subject, and it's not, you've been...
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm not asking for us to, I'm not asking for us to go to executive, to resume to executive.
But you asked how much it costs, and it has been answered, and none, we do not know.
Okay, so is that sensitive information? We can't say.
There is an appeal on a case, and that involves ongoing costs.
Do you have an estimate on how much an appeal may cost?
This subject is not for the estimate of.
I'm not going over the subject. I'm not going over the subject matter, Mayor.
The item number 15. If you read it, it says that the question is for bringing forth the appeal.
Mr. Mayor, these are basic questions that I'm just trying to make open to the residents. We're not talking about the case matter. We're not talking about the subject matter. We're not talking about any of that. Basic questions like how much has the case cost to date? How much do you think it might cost? And then another question is, do you know what percentage appeals are reversed?
That's not having to do with anything that's relevant to this.
So you might be wondering, what is this lawsuit about? Well, it's been covered in the press.
Lawrence Koplow, who was not involved in this case, says what was revealed in the civil lawsuit should be a glaring red flag for the people of Scottsdale.
Some of these people were sentenced. Some of these people went to jail.
The lawsuit centers around Shawn Fuller, who was hired as a Scottsdale prosecutor in 2019, but quickly fired 3 months later. Upon starting, court documents show Fuller was allegedly made aware of a rumor and started an audit.
The rumor was that the office was not disclosing exculpatory lab reports to defendants in DUI cases.
Fuller's 5-year audit also found that allegedly city paralegals, not attorneys, were showing up to arraignments for DUIs. Koplow says paralegals are not allowed to represent people charged with crimes or even offer legal advice. He says this is a severe ethics violation and only gets worse.
But it's not every person. It's usually unrepresented people. It's usually people who don't have the money to hire private counsel.
The lawsuit claims those represented by the paralegals would plead guilty despite not having a positive drug test, which Koplow says is typically the primary evidence used in these cases.
They found 9 cases. Then Shawn, rightfully, says, well, we can't stop at 5 years.
Upon finding the results, Fuller wanted to go back more to see who else this may have happened to. Before he could do that, he was fired for harassment. The jury found he was wrongfully terminated and did not harass any coworkers. Koplow says it was clear the jury also found the timing suspicious.
Does one need to go to law school to put 2 and 2 together? I don't think so. And also, why hasn't the city of Scottsdale gone back since then?
Now, I reached out to the city and they provided this statement saying, quote, "The city of Scottsdale is incredibly disappointed by the jury verdict in this case and will appeal. The city categorically denies any wrongdoing." Now, Koplow tells me that he also wants to ask Scottsdale to go back as far as possible and see if this happened to anyone else.
So just recently, the city of Scottsdale was served with a suit and lost that suit and is scheduled to pay out $5.2 million to former prosecutor Fuller. So it was found that in the city of Scottsdale, DUI charges were being charged and people were going in and pleading out at the arraignment. If you recall, the arraignment's that very first court date that you get served with, or a lot of these people were being arrested and then going into jail in the arraignment, and then they would just plead guilty to these drug DUI cases. Later, it was uncovered when the test came back that there was no drugs in the person's system. But there were at least 9 convictions over the past 5 years of people that just went in and pled guilty right at the arraignment for a drug DUI when in fact there were no drugs in their system. These people just basically got railroaded into taking a plea agreement for a charge that never should have even been charged. So we'll see what City of Scottsdale does with these cases. My hope is that they don't allow people to just go in and plead guilty to DUIs without getting any evidence. So on some of these cases, what should happen then is they should scratch the case, or basically mean the case doesn't start until they get those blood results back. And those blood results do show that there was a drug in somebody's system, because they have up to a year to be able to file those charges, and it shouldn't take that long to get those blood results back. So I know in Scottsdale, this has been shown to have happened. I don't know if it's happening in any other courts. I certainly hope not.
The questions raised by Councilman Graham did not violate any of the rules governing executive sessions. But these members, Caputi, Durham, Ortega, Janik, and Whitehead, were panicked. They couldn't allow the public to know the details of the appeal.
I'll second it, and I would like to speak to my second. First of all, we have executive sessions for a reason. It's to protect your city, and it's to protect all parties involved. And so we did just have an executive session on this matter.
Point of order. This is about the second of the consent. This is not about that topic.
Okay, that's fine. I do have some items I'd like to...
Not for speeches, it's to second it.
No.
So they voted to censor Mr. Graham's speech. It would not allow further discussion on the topic. Executive sessions could be considered unconstitutional if the council members make decisions in these private meetings and the public is not allowed to know what they do. Now is the time for you to act. Vote for new leadership, and let's take our city back.